Hey guys, Russell here from homebrewrepublic.co.nz. How you going? For today's brew review, we're checking out the Chilean Sauvignon Blanc from the WineExpert Classic range. This is the kit here. Let's get into the video. Hey guys, Russell here from homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Thanks for joining us today. You already know we're checking out the Chilean Sauvignon Blanc from the WineExpert Classic range. You might wonder why I'm holding a glass of red. This one here, which came out of a bottle that looks like this, was actually the first ever wine that I've ever made. I made it using the Pinot Noir kit from the WineExpert Classic range. It has come out exceptionally well. I'm not a massive wine drinker, however my wife loved it, which was really the main proof point for me. We've put some more of these bottles out to friends and family for feedback, so I'll let you know in the brew review, which is a link up on the screen, how that brew went if you want to go and check it out. But for today, like we said, we're here to focus on the Sauvignon Blanc kit. So, Sauvignon Blanc, a little bit of interesting history here. Why is a Sauvignon Blanc called a Sauvignon Blanc? So what we already know is that Sauvignon Blancs are a white wine. They come from a green-skinned grape variety, which originates from France, and particularly the western region of France. And my pronunciation is going to be terrible here, so I apologise. Bordeaux or Bordeaux is probably how you say it. Now, the name Sauvignon Blanc is thought to most likely come from the words savage and blanc. Now, savage means wild and blanc means white. So the grape variety is originally thought to have been a wild grape variety that came from that western region of France, which is where the name comes from. All that said, let's go and check out the kit we're actually making today. This is the kit itself, ladies and gentlemen, the Chilean Sauvignon Blanc from the WineExpert Classic range. It is a 4-week kit, which means it takes 4 weeks to produce from brew to the bottling phase. What we have inside is the extract that we're going to use to make a full 23 litre brew, and all of the other ingredients that we require, including comprehensive step-by-step instructions. So that's the kit, guys, but the million-dollar question is, what are we actually brewing with this wine? The tasting notes that are on the WineExpert website for this wine is peach and pineapple. We're expecting a very, very light, crisp, clean body with this wine. So that sounds pretty good to me. Now, the key note with this wine is that it's a 4-week kit. What that means is it's going to take 4 weeks from this point today, where we mix this wine up in our fermenter, through to the point where we plan on bottling our wine. What I'm going to do is leave the specific process steps out of this part of the video, and I'm going to pick them up as we move through. All I'm going to say though is one of the things that I really like about these kits is they are quick and simple to get set up. So the last time I put one of these kits together, it was 12 minutes from the time I opened the box to the point where I had it mixed up in my fermenter and moved down into the garage, and that included the initial sanitizing of the equipment. All that said, at this point I'm going to say too much talking, not enough brewing. Let's get into it. First process step, not one that I've typically done in the past. However, the instructions on the back of this yeast state the word must for yeast rehydration. Real simple process. Hot tap water, 35 to 37 degrees. Going to add the yeast here. Give it a little mix, and then what we're going to do is allow the yeast 20 minutes to rehydrate. Now what this is going to do is help reactivate the yeast, which will give us a more effective start to our fermentation when we add this to the fermenter. I'm going to cover this with a piece of Glad wrapper tinfoil, and then I'll see you guys in 20 minutes to pitch into our fermenter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the garage pitching the yeast. I've sat this fermenter in my temperature control fridge. You do not require a temperature control fridge to brew. It will simply give you more control over temperature. Current temperature, so you'll see there little yellow pieces of tape. My temperature probe is picking up 18.4 on the digital thermometer. That's in line with the therm strip that was on the side. That was broadly picking up 18 to 22. The key piece of information on the brewing instructions was to ferment through, or that the ideal fermentation temperature range is between 20 and 25 degrees. So I've set my temperature controller to 22. It's currently heating, so it will bring the brew up to that temperature and then hold it. All that said, here is our rehydrated yeast. Let's get this lid off and get the yeast into the fermenter. Here we go, guys, giving the yeast a gentle swirl to make sure we grab everything. And that is it. Yeast is pitched, as simple as that. Going to get this lid back on, and then one of the hardest parts, which is waiting. Next time we do a check-in will be day 14. I've taken my original gravity, 1.084 was the starting gravity. Catch you in 2 weeks. Here we are, guys. Day 15. We have been sitting in the fermenter. Fermenter was set for, or the temperature controller rather, was set for 22 target temperature. Been in there for 15 days. What we're doing at the moment, I've taken a gravity reading. Gravity was 0.99, it was either 2 or 4, 2 I think it was, and that is under. So it said here that at 4 weeks we are to be under 0.996, and if we are, then we begin the transfer process. So obviously everything's sanitized. I've got a bucket of sanitizing solution off to my side, and what we are doing is moving via siphon down into this guy, carboy. And the purpose of that, what you can kind of see there, that little bit of shaded area at the bottom of the fermenter, we're going to leave all that down there. I'll show you afterwards. Bringing it into this guy here for degassing and for the clearing process. Here we are, guys. This is what we are leaving behind when we rack off into our carboy. About half an inch to an inch on the bottom there's a layer of non-soluble, non-fermentable matter which has sunk to the bottom. So a couple of tips: when you move your fermenter into position for racking off, be gentle, don't swish it around, trying to shake it up when you move it. The other thing I'd always suggest as well is give yourself Once you've moved into position, give yourself 10 minutes before you start the process of racking off into your carboy. What that will do is any sediment which you've stirred up slightly in the process of moving it gives it a chance to sink back down, and it just helps you take a cleaner brew off into your carboy. Alright guys, let's go check out the degassing. Ladies and gentlemen, from here we are officially in the degassing process. So, sachet, sulfite sorbate goes directly into the solution and the degassing begins. So, two ways to do this. One is you have some kind of degassing machine. Being my second ever bottle of wine, I do not. Therefore, we are degassing manually, which basically involves 10 minutes of rigorous stirring. Here we go. Going to be a long 10 minutes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is stabilizing and degassing complete. Back into the temperature control fridge. Set at 22. Here we go guys, back again, last time, been an hour. Going to drop Kisesol, I think that's how you say it, in. From here, we play the waiting game. Gonna leave this for, I'm just gonna leave it for 2 weeks. So essentially what the instructions say is let it sit, they actually say let it sit for 11 days. I'll just go to 2 weeks, it's easier. It says come and check it, golden rule, never bottle cloudy beer. If it's still cloudy, leave it for another 7 to 14 days and essentially keep leaving it until it clears. Basically says that could be anywhere between day 26 and 54. My red wine that I did came up really nicely in 2 weeks. So, and the other key thing it says is that right up the top it says keep the fermentation area warm right through the process. So that's not just the fermentation, I take it as being this part of the process as well. All that said guys, we are going to let this wine do its thing. Next time I see you will, unless I chuck in a bottling clip, will be the official taste test. Cheers! Hey guys, welcome back to the official taste test for the WineExpert Classic Range Chile Sauvignon Blanc. Here we are guys. This was actually what the finished bottle looked like. So what I did was I corked the bottle and I dressed it in a heat shrink gold cap. So just finished it off really nice and made it really awesome when handing it over to friends and family. The more important piece though, what does it look like? What does it taste like? Here we go guys, one opened bottle. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is our finished product. What we have there, really, really beautiful color. It's come up beautifully clear, like it's exactly as we would expect. Now, if we actually go and look at the WineExpert website, what they say is that the notes we're expecting here, don't actually know how to pronounce this word, herbaceous, pineapple and peach was the other one. Now my palate is not explicitly refined enough to be able to say true, false or otherwise, but what I would say is that it smells like wine, which is a good thing, that the aroma profile is very clean and very fresh, and passes that test for me. And I would pretty much say the same of the flavor profile. The big thing that I would say is very light and fresh and easygoing flavour profile. It makes this a very enjoyable Sauvignon Blanc. And indeed, one of my friends pretty much said exactly the same thing. Very light and very fresh. Similarly to what she said, this particular friend said with the last wine, which is the Pinot Noir, she said the flavour profile doesn't linger, but it actually makes this a very easygoing and refreshing wine to drink in the summer, particularly thinking about a hot sunny afternoon. So I'm going to go thumbs up on that front. We gave this wine out and again shared it very widely with our friends and had a very similar response to last time. What I would say is the only feedback we got from this was good. It produces, as you can see here, a great looking wine. It looks awesome in the glass, looks good on the table. It is easy drinking. It's a generally agreeable wine. And for me, I'd have no problems offering this to guests coming over or placing it on the table for dinner. It's a great outcome as far as I'm concerned. What I would say as well is this is the second wine that I've done, and I actually found this one a bit easier. My general observation, and I shared this with the last wine, is relative to beer or cider, from a kit brewing perspective, the process is a lot more complex. There's more process steps, they're more specific, and it takes longer. Having done that process once, the second time with a level of familiarity, whilst it was, still had the same steps and the same length of time, with that level of familiarity was a lot easier to execute on. And I've now got my third wine down and I'm mid-process, but that process is just feeling easier again, given that my familiarity is growing. So I think what I would be saying is once you've done one or two of these and gotten more comfortable, it will just get easier and easier from a process perspective, which I think is really great. The other thing that I didn't do, now this is the one step in the instructions. So what the instructions say at the end is if we're planning on keeping the wine or storing the wine for more than 3 months, then we need to consider adding a preservative to protect the flavor, basically the structure of the wine, the flavor profile and the color profile. What this wine here, I didn't actually go back and check, but this would probably be on the 4 month mark. And I think it's still great. I can't say I'm noticing any breakdown in terms of the color profile or the flavor profile. What would be interesting though, and I might think about this for brew experiment later on, is basically splitting a finished batch into two and putting the preservative into one batch and then not into the other. And I think what would be interesting at certain periods, 4, 6, 12 months, would be getting those, pouring a bottle, the bottle that has the preservative and the bottle that doesn't, and then looking at the differences between the finished product, both in terms of its color structure, but then in terms of its flavor and aroma profile as well, and seeing what kind of differences we find. But I'd certainly say, like I said, I think that one's around 4 months. And if you were planning on drinking your wine within that 4 month period, I'd have no issues in just running the kit just by itself. Yeah, and I guess the other side of that as well is, these kits, as the other thing I don't know is how the flavor profile for these kits changes over time. The general sentiment with wine is, or maybe the general perception rather than sentiment, is that maturing the wine will lead to, over time, a better wine. And so I guess this partly links back to the preservative pieces. If we store the wine for longer, if we're drinking this at 3 or 4 months and saying it's nice, how would this change over, say, 12 or 18 months or longer? Don't know the answer to that, but it would be interesting to see if we feel that the quality of the wine improves as it ages. Again, something we could test. But all that said, I would call this a great success. And certainly keeping a few bottles aside for Christmas, which for me is in approximately a month. Now, wine territory. I'm actually really enjoying the wines. I've got my third wine down now, and what we have done is an Italian Pinot Grigio. Really interesting wine. I've not heard of it before, but flavor profile, actually the wine and the grapes, they originate from a region in Italy, and the typical flavor profile is very zesty, often coming from lemon with big hints of apple. So that is primarily going to be the wine that we're drinking over summer. I thought that sounded really great, you know, crisp, zesty, citrus, apple. Sounds good, perfect for hot sunny afternoons in my mind. We're brewing up a storm on beer. Now the 3 brews I'm taking into summer, one is that Italian Pinot Grigio, which is, it's another WineExpert range. I decided to stay with WineExpert for that third wine. I think they're great kits. So for now, sticking with what I know, it's another one from their classic range. I'm also going to nail out 2 beers. Now my 2 beers, my first one is the brand new Black Rock Extra Pale Ale, which I'm going to hop with a blend of New Zealand hops, and then I'm going to do a Brick Road Dry Lager, which I'm going for a very clean, crisp and light body lager. So thinking about basically those late December, January and early February hot days, and yeah, afternoons at the beaches under pohutukawa trees, all that kind of good stuff. What I'm going to say, guys, is if you have joined us this far in the video, thank you, appreciate your support. Give us a thumbs up, we appreciate it. Feel free to engage in the comments. We keep an eye on them, we always message back. If you like what we do, you can find us at homebrewrepublic.co.nz. Now the other thing, if you scroll down that homepage, you will also find a link to our Facebook group, which is the Homebrew Republic Kit Brewing Community. Feel free to come along, check us out and chat with the community. There's a really awesome bunch of people in there. Everything from people doing their first brews through to people who've been brewing for years, who are always happy to share ideas, tips, tricks, recipes, and what they're up to and all that kind of good stuff. But like I said, guys, thank you and happy brewing. Cheers.
Cheers.